may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
All right, guys, I know y'all don't want to hear it. I don't really want to talk about it, but it's going to be so important for us to go in and look at these wide receivers that are losing value based on their Week 11 performance, based on maybe their situations changing. Regardless, we need to make sure we are taking note. We need to make sure that we are planning for the future, whether we think that some of these starting wide receivers need to go to our benches. Maybe we think some of these guys could be intriguing buy low candidates if your trade deadline has not passed. Regardless, we need to spend some time discussing this because it's really going to be so impactful for our fantasy football playoffs. But before we get into it, please guys, if you have not already, go down there, drop a like on a video, go down there, subscribe to the channel. Nobody is going to outwork me. 4 to 5 videos every single day, live streaming every single night. So y'all are going to be 100% good to go for your fantasy football playoffs. Now let's get into it, and let's start it off with the wide receiver that I got incredibly wrong this past week, Jamison Crowder. So Jamison Crowder saw almost no targets in this game, where the New York Jets really went out there and aggressively pushed the ball down the field. A few things here. I said that this was going to be a very intriguing storyline we needed to follow, knowing that we had never seen Jamison Crowder play in a game with both 100% healthy Denzel Mims and Brashad Perriman, and we wanted to see what the wide receiver tree looked like on this team. And really, it looks like Jamison Crowder may not necessarily be the wide receiver 3 every single week for this offense, but is definitely not going to be that clear alpha that he was before. Because before, guys, Jamison Crowder at one point this season was the wide receiver 2 overall in points per game. He was someone that was consistently seeing double-digit targets. Really someone that you thought you were going to have as your wide receiver 2 or your flex spot every week. But now I think that Jamison Crowder isn't coming close to that, because with Crowder, he's that slot wide receiver that's operating underneath, and that's completely fine if you are seeing a ton of targets. Really, you can be consistent if you are seeing all those targets. But if you're not going to be the number 1 guy on your offense, you're really not going to have enough efficiency to go out there and provide us production. I mean, we are looking at the exact opposite thing with a player like Tyler Lockett, where with Tyler Lockett, it honestly does not matter if DK Metcalf is seeing the most targets on that team, because Lockett is operating further downfield. Lockett is going to be efficient with the targets that he sees. But if Jamison Crowder is only getting 6 to 7 targets in a game down the road, really, he's a wide receiver that can't come anywhere close to our starting lineups. So with Crowder, I don't think you can go out there and sell him. I don't think anybody's going to give you anything for him. I don't think you're going to be able to go out there and cut him because of that production that we saw earlier on this season, knowing that maybe also if we get Sam Darnold coming back in, that could be a small bump up for Jamison Crowder. I think that this is a wide receiver that we just need to hold. We need to put him on our bench and really pray that we see his usage change in this offense. Because if he is not leading this team in target share, really, there's no opportunity for production anytime soon. All right, so now our next wide receiver, someone that was my number 1 wide receiver, or my number 1 overall target in fantasy football drafts, JuJu Smith-Schuster. Y'all know how much I love JuJu. I thought that he was going to be the clear alpha wide receiver for this Pittsburgh Steelers offense in 2020. And it looks like I was just laughably wrong, where JuJu, yes, did get injured this game, but even before the injury, he really was not looking like he was going to be a great option anyway. Just with Deontay Johnson, I believe, seeing 16 targets in this game. Deontay Johnson seeing 10 or more targets in pretty much every single game that he's been 100% healthy in. With JuJu, we know that this is a wide receiver that really has his ceiling capped. I don't think it's in the range of outcomes for JuJu to ever go out there and give us that top 5 finish, because very similar to a Jamison Crowder, JuJu has actually been really used across the line of scrimmage so far in 2020. His average depth of target has been the lowest on the Pittsburgh Steelers, where both Claypool and Deontay Johnson are operating a little bit further downfield. And that is not ideal for JuJu Smith-Schuster if he's not going to be leading this team in target share. It does not matter how productive the overall Pittsburgh Steelers offense is going to be, because JuJu is not going to be in a position where he can really go out there and thrive. All right, so now our next wide receiver, someone that is very frustrating Julio Jones. Guys, with Julio Jones, I think that this is a wide receiver that, yes, we need to make sure is still on our roster. The last thing you can do is go out there and decide to cut Julio, but coming off a performance where he only saw 2 targets, he was in and out the game pretty much the entire time, and this is not something that's been new throughout Julio Jones' entire career. I mean, we've seen him time and time again just play through all of these injuries, really be sidelined for about 25% of the snaps in any given game, and with the Atlanta Falcons offense really not providing anything, I think with Julio Jones, yes, he is still an elite talent at the NFL level, still one of the best wide receivers where if we were drafting a real NFL team, I think Julio Jones would be in that top 5. But knowing that he's dealing with these injuries yet again, really, what is the incentive for Julio Jones to continue to go out there and play through injury in 2020? I don't see one. I mean, this team is so far out of contention to the point where, honestly, if we're talking about the future success of the Atlanta Falcons franchise, it'd probably be best if they just start losing games. I mean, with Julio Jones, this is a wide receiver where I love the talent. We thought we liked the situation where there was no clear wide receiver 3 on the offense. Targets were going to be funneled to both Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley. Really, they had no running game that they could rely on, with Todd Gurley being one of the most inefficient running backs in the entire NFL. I just think that this offense, combined with Julio Jones and his injury, is going to be drastically lowering him down our rest of season rankings, where I believe he was in the top 5 or 6 for us beforehand. I've not gone out there and officially redone these rankings, as I want to continue to dive in to the snap shares, the target shares of these wide receivers and their offenses, and where their average depth of target has been. But with Julio Jones, I would be surprised if he's still in the top 10. All right, so now let's get to our next wide receiver, someone that I honestly thought was injured in his game, Jakobi Meyers. Jakobi Meyers in this matchup where Cam Newton threw the ball 40 times, only saw 3 targets. Jakobi Meyers had less than a 10% target share, where over the past month he had been around that 38% mark, a truly elite number. I mean, very surprising that we saw that type of usage from N'Keal Harry. With N'Keal Harry, I did not think that he was going to significantly improve from his week 10 opportunity to his week 11, because yes, week 10 was his first week back. Yes, you would naturally assume that he would get better as he gets back from his injury, but his injury was a concussion. It's not like he was coming back from a hamstring. So I thought he was going to be 100% good to go right away. And when he saw no targets in week 10, I thought Jakobi Meyers was a safe bet as that week 11 number 1 wide receiver for the New England Patriots. But with him pretty much getting no targets in that offense, with the offense throwing the ball way more than they will ever do the rest of the season, really, what is the floor and ceiling combination that we were looking at here with Jakobi Meyers? I know he provided a 2-game stretch where he was really exciting, but one of those plays in his second game where he blew up was off of a massive touchdown throw from Jakobi Meyers. We know that's not going to be sustainable over the entire season. So really, we only have 1 game from Jakobi Meyers where he provided us that top-end production in a sustainable way. So I think this is a wide receiver that was definitely in consideration for our flex spots last week. I actually told a lot of people to play him in their flex spots, as we had liked his usage before. We liked his projected opportunity in the offense coming up. But now I think Jakobi Meyers safely has to go to your bench. Very similar to a player like Jamison Crowder, though, where you cannot go out there and flat out cut him. Can't trade him away because nobody's going to give you anything for him. But you are not going to be able to start him anytime soon. All right, so now our last wide receiver, someone that I think we can safely go out there and cut, Jarvis Landry. What the hell's going on with Jarvis Landry, guys? Please, if you have an answer, go down to the comments below. I mean, right now, he should be just being a target hog in the Cleveland Browns offense, but this past week, only seeing 2 targets where no-name wide receivers are going out there and playing more snaps than him, getting more yards than him. With Jarvis Landry, it looks like he is complete dust, and I know some of these wide receivers, like an AJ Green, sometimes see a bounce back after nonstop disappointing performances. I find it very hard to believe that we're going to see the same thing from a Jarvis Landry, though, just because Jarvis Landry is playing on an offense that has very below average quarterback play. He's playing on an offense that wants to run the ball first, and we've always seen Jarvis Landry be a wide receiver that's produced off of volume, never efficiency. So if he's not getting the volume, very similar to what was said about Jamison Crowder earlier on, Why are we still rostering Jarvis Landry? I would much prefer having a player like Michael Pittman. I would much prefer having a wide receiver like Jalen Reagor, just because with both of those rookie options, yes, it's going to be a little bit harder for them to get an every down role on their offenses, but we have not seen 1 week that was inspiring from Jarvis Landry so far in 2020. Really just a wide receiver that I want nothing to do with, no upside, no floor, no reason to have on our fantasy football rosters. Now, thank you guys. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. I really hope y'all got something from it. As always, if y'all did, go down there, drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. Really, really helps us out, and I hope I'll see y'all in the live stream. Tonight, I'll be live streaming every single night this week, except on Thursday night, just because it's Thanksgiving. I told my grandpa I would go spend the night with him, so got a little bit of a road trip planned ahead. Regardless, guys, I hope I see y'all on the live stream some night this week.